Hi everyone, it's your girl, Dr. Tomi, better known as Ama Abba. So today is a continuation of my series honoring the faces on the front line of this COVID-19 Wahala. So Wellness and Wahala podcast gives you great tips, public health tips, and we talk about current affairs and issues and problems because in Nigerian Pidgin English, if you're tuning in for the first time, Wahala in Nigerian Pidgin means issues and problems. And the biggest one right now, the COVID-19. But today we have a special guest, y'all, that's in the house. And the topic for today is the role of media in regards to COVID-19 Wahala and journalists like Funke Bayesha, who is one of the journalists, essential workers working in Kingston, Jamaica. She's Nigerian American and my little sis. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the stories and, issues that you are hearing now during this COVID-19 Wahala? Some of the things that I'm hearing is like the increase of like gender-based violence, for example, because of people staying home and the anxiety and people losing jobs. So, what are some of the things that you guys are reporting now?
All right, so this COVID-19 it's pretty much scary. It is taking a toll on several persons in different areas of their lives differently. In Jamaica, for instance, some of the cases that we are seeing right now that we're reporting on, there is increase in violence within the community. There's a sense of uncertainty. People are worried. Some people have taken, like, maybe as a result of a loss of a job, it has taken a toll on them, and as a result they begin to act out, which also can also impact other persons, their cases of violence in the home, where person they're being in this every day you're used to a routine of where you wake up, you go to work, you come home, but now you're spending time together. You're eating always. You're trying to find stuff to do. So it kind of, people might clash, because they're in the same space. So for instance, one of the news stories that we reported the other day, a guy in, I think, St. Mary, I believe, he recently lost his job.
Okay.
And persons in the community said he started acting out, and as a result, he actually murdered a little girl, child, and also he injured an elderly man.
What?
And yes, because it was driving him crazy. He was unemployed, so he started acting out, and this also affected other persons as a result. And as a result of him doing that, it kind of created a domino effect where when he did that, persons in the community, they got upset, so now they went for him. And I think they also ended up, I believe, injuring him or actually also killing him. So it's almost as if it creates a domino
retaliation,
effect.
Yeah.
One person acts out, another person retaliates. And also we're seeing cases where, stories where vendors are complaining that people are robbing their stores because several persons are out of a job now, so they're preying on other persons. So, you go to work, you close your store in the night, you go back home the next morning, you come back, you find out that persons have taken several of your items, and now you have to worry about how to pay people, because sometimes most of them is a situation where they get the stuff on credit and they're depending on money to sell them back, to pay them back. Creates a domino effect. Also, like the issue of the violence is not only in Jamaica, because we also
all over
cases in regionally and internationally. So you're also seeing cases where in Trinidad and Tobago, the increase in violence at home is also very high, because they also have a lot of cases of COVID-19. they're one of the countries in the Caribbean that also has a high rate of cases of COVID-19. So, there are cases where persons are, also being abused at home. You have kids who their from home was when they went to school. So it's really taking a toll on several persons. We have cases where a nurse, for instance, she's an essential worker. She went to work, she left her son at home. One of his friends came by and said, hey, let's go out and play. Obviously, the mother is not at home to say, hey, no, stay indoors. So out, and as a result, they went to a river, and he drowned and he died.
Oh my goodness!
It's kind of causing, I don't know, it's causing chaos. Also, you have the flip side where some persons are being creative. They're exploring other ways of which they can make incomes. You have people who are making masks, like fashionable masks, to resell to persons. They're finding creative ways of doing that.
Of the PPEs, because there's not enough personal protective equipment.
Yes. You have persons who are, going on YouTube, for instance, who are, starting a YouTube channel, finding ways of, expressing themselves. You have media companies right now. For instance, where I work, one of our branches, the radio station, they now have to have an online party.
Nice. Like a virtual party.
Right, like a virtual party. They have to find ways of, at the same time entertaining the public, keeping them informed. For instance, now my news station, sometimes we have a program. It's called, we have a program, and we have to, it was a program where the guests were normally required to come in studio, but now we actually have to. They are where they are, and they record themselves. Thank God for technology, and then they send us the stuff, so we now play it and edit it, and whatever we need to do. So the role of the media in all of this is really to inform the public, let them know what they need to do. And also of recent, there was a case where the Prime Minister, because there's now COVID-19, there's now a lockdown in St. Catherine, which is a parish in Jamaica, right?
Yes.
Because a call center there were several employees who have now been affected by COVID-19. So as a result, the parish is on lockdown. So you have some persons trying to run away from the parish
to another parish.
Right.
Okay.
So it's really crazy. And because there's a lockdown, I believe one of the days the Prime Minister had initially said that, media persons were not allowed to leave the parish either. They were to be on lockdown. And everybody was like, what? Media persons? This is a democratic society.
Right.
Media people have to... we have to...
You have to go around and collect the story and be a voice of the voiceless, right?
Definitely. So in that instance, the Press Association of Jamaica had to step in and be like, no, Mr. Prime Minister, this is not okay.
You can't restrict, right?
We have to be exempt. We're the media, we have to be exempt, and it only makes sense. So, thankfully they were able to resolve it, and, media personnel are now exempt from it. And also you have cases where persons are complaining that, I'm trying to figure out the right way to put this, right?
But even when the Prime Minister wanted to, say, restrict people, when you restrict people out of fear, it just causes a lot of chaos. Instead of them to say, for media outlets or other essential frontline workers or healthcare workers, let us find a way to ensure that, when they do go out to the field, they use protective equipment, they wash their hands, they make sure that they adhere to the international public health standards. You can't restrict essential frontline people. That don't make no sense.
Thankfully they were able to fix that but it was just because I remember I was in the office that day and I was listening to the because they were in Parliament and they were discussing, and when he said that, I was like, wow. I'm like, you can't really do that to media though, because we have different shifts at the end of the day. We would work differently. So I think it was a case where all they had to do was say, media personnel, you guys have to help us, keep this in check. Because also recently there were reports of certain essential workers helping people sneak out of the parish. And I think that's kind of bizarre. I think that, as essential workers, we need to know better, because the virus cannot travel. It travels through persons, no need for you to be on the road. I think that you should stay safe, and, so that we can try to contain this thing. So you also have in Jamaica, where certain media outlets, like where I work, for instance, they have put in measures to ensure that their workers are safe. So, like, for instance, they started by limiting the number of persons, as in terms of outsiders who come to the media. So it's a case where, can we do this via video call? Do you really need to be in studio? You get it? So, like, we now have sanitizers almost everywhere in the compound, and with little notes that say, please sanitize before you come in. And also we now have gloves, and we are now required to wear masks, sorry. We now have, and we're now required to wear a mask on the compound. In some cases, persons who work like the early shifts, their transportation is provided for them so that they can get to work, because you're also taking public transportation sometimes with person, you don't know who is exposed to
exactly.
So you can never be too careful. And another thing that we are also seeing, that we have been reporting on, since the lockdown in St. Catherine, is panic buying, right?
Yeah.
So I think
that's been here. That's not just in Jamaica. That's all over. Even here in the U.S. is madness.
I think it's a case of fear of the unknown, and people don't really some people don't really necessarily understand, what's going on. So I think that some people maybe need to read more about the disease, read more, understand what a lockdown is, because although there's a lockdown, right, the government has given out certain days, 2 days in the week, where
in Jamaica, that you can go to grocery, to the market. I heard. Yes. And then they were like, depending on your last name, for like A to Z, you go Monday, Wednesday. I mean, A to like L, and then from L to Z. But the thing, even with that, like, you when you put policies in place, you have to make it sustainable. So for like for your station that says, oh, they have sanitizer, use that when you come in, or gloves. How about when you run out of gloves, or you say, like, if you have running water and soap there, soap is not a shortage. Even if it's not hand soap, you can get dishwashing soap and put it in the hand soap, bottle, and wash it. You just need soap and water. And actually, soap and water is actually more effective than the sanitizer. Sanitizer was actually formed in transit. So, like, when you don't have access to water, that's when you, and soap. So, they should also look at that area of sustainability, because if they're putting policies in place and say, oh, you need to wear gloves, you need to make sure you use sanitizers, don't go on public transportation. Okay, is your station or whatever office providing shuttle buses to pick up staff? Like, some companies, they have staff buses. So, and government organizations and ministries. So, are they going to provide a staff bus for the essential workers? You understand?
And also, I think it's a case where, as individuals, we need to be more responsible, regardless if you're an essential worker or not. Because although, while I understand that the company is responsible for putting policies in place to ensure the safety of their staff, sometimes as individuals we can be a little laid back, like, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, let me walk with my own sanitizer, let me walk with my own sanitizer, just in case, someone is in front of me at work and I'm in a rush, I'll just use my own. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, can I call a cab from home? I mean, not all of us can afford it, but
Right.
as opposed to, public transportation, can I have, like, if I have an uncle that drives, can I have my uncle, drop me off? Can I order my own mask? Sometimes we might want to depend on other persons, and they might not necessarily move at our own pace, right?
Exactly.
I remember a lady was saying that she went to a supermarket, right? And she had to remind the what do you call the people that sell again? The cashier,
The
right?
cashiers, yeah.
Right.
At the markets, yeah.
Yes, she had to remind the cashier and say, "Hey, sweetie, remember to sanitize before me and after me," because sometimes it's a case where persons forget, and sometimes you really have to remind them, because it's not just because of me, you're also doing it for you, right? So remember, when you sell the person in front of me, remember to sanitize your hands before me and after me, not just for me, but just for you. So I think it's a case where also as individuals we have to be more responsible. We can't just depend on persons solely for things. And also you find that thank God for technology, because of COVID-19, it's not like the norm, it's not like the regular norm. We have to find innovative ways of doing things. We have to make people know that we have a purpose, right?
Right.
Our job. So it's a case where, like, at my workplace now, for instance, we have to, they're saying, like, the leaders are saying, hey, if you have an innovative idea in this pandemic, let us know, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still a business, and things are kind of slow right now. So everybody has to now come up with creative ways to make ourselves relevant. Because if we're out there as the media, and we're not giving out fresh information, we're not doing things to get information out there to get the audience to listen to us, what's the point? Like, so at the end of the day, like, we have to be grateful for our job. We also have to find innovative ways of doing things. Like, hey, can we do a feature on how COVID-19 is affecting persons staying home? What can we do differently to put ourselves out there, get the news faster? What can we do? Basically, we have to explore new ways of doing things so that we can have a purpose. Because if you don't have a purpose, people are gonna see that you don't have a purpose, and then you might be out of a job. So it's really unfortunate that a lot of persons also, that's another thing, a lot of persons are out of a job right now, and some persons have to rely on the government's care package, but for how long? They have bills, they have expenses. So
but how is that? Have they actually started giving care packages? Like here in the U.S., they just gave care packages. They send money to most people's account if you make less than $75,000 a year, and if you have a child, I think they give $500 per child. So have they started releasing the care package in Kingston or across the island in Jamaica?
I'm trying to remember the name. So they have actually started it. I think it started last week or the week before last week, and I think it's for only. I think there's a category that makes you eligible. I know that tertiary students are one of them. Farmers are also one of them. I'm trying to remember the rest of persons.
How about religious institutions? Because, like, people that are pastors and they're not, of course, yes, you can have church online. And now, I mean, pretty much we have to revive our family altars and worship from home, which is no problem. But I mean, a lot of the funds, the tithes and offerings, everything will go down when your church goes up. So how are they providing support to religious institutions too, and like NGOs and nonprofits and community organizations?
Okay, so actually, I'm trying to go on a link right now
to check that one. Okay.
Yeah, but I know that I'm not so sure about the religious institutions. Okay. Funny enough, we haven't really seen any stories except one. There was a story where a pastor. So during the lockdown, right? When during the curfew period, that they have we have a social distancing policy in Jamaica right now where, like, no more than 10 persons is allowed to be in the same room at a time in Jamaica, right?
Okay.
So the pastor, right, she actually had a Sunday service, and she had about 50 persons in the room.
After.
Yeah, so she was actually charged for breaching, the curfew orders.
Okay.
So it's a case where most of the religious persons, they have been compliant with the rules so far. A lot of churches in Jamaica, we're now reporting stories of them having, online churches, and the Prime Minister was saying that he also met with them, and they're also, they're actually more cooperative than he expected them to be.
Okay.
And it's a case where some of these religious institutions, well, for now, it seems as if they're self-sufficient. Well, so far, we haven't really seen any stories of them complaining. I'm not sure if the compassionate grant applies to them, but I'm trying to read right now to see who is eligible for this grant. Let me see.
Yeah. And even like elderly people, like that's the thing here, because
elderly people are also in that category.
Yes, but they haven't really got their checks this week, because the people that are elderly here, the pensioners, I guess they already have their account and information, so they just have to. It's just going to take them longer, which I don't understand why. But I was like, those people are actually even the most vulnerable. They should have got their money first. But it takes a while. So I'm happy that Jamaica at least is having a care package. Unfortunately, for countries back at home like Nigeria and other African nations, they have not come up with a care package. But you hear in the media that they spend, $2 billion on SMS tests to talk about social distancing and stay at home. No, like, what you mean? That $2 billion? Don't send me no text. Send me in a lot. So,
like a bank alert.
Right. So I can buy PPEs, masks for my family, or, make them myself, and buy food and buy essentials to keep me and my family going. If I've lost my job, I know how it is to be a single mom and lose your job and be in a vulnerable situation, and you don't have financial support, and you put yourself in a very difficult situation. If it's not for extended family and other destiny helpers and friends that you're at the mercy at, I mean, it is only God really that is helping you to survive day by day. And of course, anxiety increases. You have psychological problems because this is mental illness, because of trauma. That was my last episode that I interviewed the media personality, Miss Kiki Toms, about, mental illness and self-care, and, just like the psychology and the psychosocial support that people don't talk about. When they talk about essential workers, it's not just public health and healthcare workers like nurses and doctors. Like I interviewed my mom, who's a respiratory therapist, retired, because this is a respiratory illness, virus. People that are usually not interviewed as essential workers. And that's why I think like the role of media is extremely essential during this time. And during other disasters, because you guys are the voice to the voiceless. Many of the suffering that is happening, whether it is, locally within your parish, within your country, within the region, just like you said, the Caribbean region, or within the world globally, you have the power to put that on your media platform. That's a sector that is very powerful for you to maneuver to get the information out there, and you guys have different sphere of influence. Whether it's, through radio, through social media, through TV, through print media,
definitely
is extremely important. So getting the right information, like I didn't know, that you guys started a care package in Jamaica. And that will be something that I will raise up and say, okay, Jamaica, that does not even generate as much money as, Nigeria and other African nations, that they have a high GDP. South Africa, they generate a lot of funding, so they have no excuse because the money that Jamaica generates is less than 10% of what we have.
I guess so. And at the end of the day, these people belong to your country. It's not like they can go anywhere else for help. So you have to provide for them. Like, you just have to. They're your people.
But if you don't, imagine how many people are dying silently of hunger. You know what I'm saying? Of not having access to the essentials. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have any type of care package or support. Nothing. So you're running from one problem, quarantining one problem, and you're causing indirectly even a more greater problem,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
what would you say will be the call to action, moving forward, as far as like media? People do have issues or do have questions and help. Like, what is the best way for people to go and research? Because the role of media is essential, but there's a lot of fake and false information out there, and false also, I would say, media places. So to ensure that people are getting the right information from the right places, like how do you fact check and ensure you get access to the right information?
All right, so I think in this time of fear and uncertainty, I think that people are already going through enough. So I just want to say to persons that, do not spread rumors. Whatever you're putting out there, make sure it's facts, make sure it's credible, make sure it's accurate, make sure it's from the right source. And, there are several ways for you to do that as a layman, there are several persons on social media who, have a powerful platform. Like, for instance, even me as a media practitioner, right? If I see something on someone's status on WhatsApp, and let's say I'm like, oh, how can I be sure this is accurate? I go online, right? I go on the Prime Minister's page. He also has a social media page. I go on the Ministry of Health of Jamaica. I go on their social media page.
Yeah.
Right, I check if the information is there, and if the information is not on the Ministry of Health, it's not on the Prime Minister's, I also go to another one. It's called PBCJ, where like whenever there's a press conference, it's actually recorded. They're like a government agency, so they actually carry all the recordings.
Oh,
so
nice. And it's archived. Oh, nice.
Yes, okay. It's archived. So I actually go on their YouTube channel. I try to see if the information is there. I also follow like journalists in Jamaica, like the prominent ones. I also follow them as a platform. I try to listen to the news as well. So if it is that someone posts something out there and you're not sure, I think that we should desist from like promoting it and keep sharing. Because, it's inaccurate, you can get in a lot of trouble for that. You can put other people's reputation at jeopardy, and, you can also put people at fear. So if it is that you're not sure, you can also take up the phone, call the media company, So send them a message. There's so many ways, thanks to technology, that we can do things right now. Like, also, if you see something regionally, internationally, locally, you go online, you Google CNN, you Google BBC. Like, there's so many things that I think that the call to action will be that as individuals, we have to be accountable for the things that we say, the things that we put out there. Right. If it is that you're not sure, you can
research,
also,
right,
or you can say it's alleged that, you don't put it out there as a fact, because
allegedly, exactly. Yeah. You weren't there, or you never verified, and then you just did that. Not gossip, be that. Yeah.
So I think that it's not good for us to promote certain things if we're not sure. We have to make sure that wherever we're getting our details from is accurate. I think that we also have to be accountable for our actions. So the government is saying stay home. If you need to get groceries, that's fine. Do what you need to do. I think that we also need to be responsible. Like, if you see someone moving out of a community where there's a lockdown, I think you can call the police and report it, because they're not only putting themselves at risk, they're putting everybody at risk, because remember, this virus is very contagious. So if one person gets it, everybody gets it.
Right.
So I think that we have to do the right thing, even when nobody's watching. If it is that you are afraid, you don't have to reveal your identity, you don't have to reveal your name. You can send a message. There are different ways of doing things right now. When you call, you can let them know that you don't want to reveal your identity. You're just calling. If you have an information or something that you want to verify with a media house, or if it's a story that you want them to carry, if you have a video, you can send it to them if you have proof, because obviously we cannot report something that we don't have any proof of or that's not true. So, if you're able to video what's happening, you can send us a little video, and we we'll investigate, we'll research it. You can give us a call, we'll go out there, we'll see how best we can report the issue and try to find a solution to whatever it is. That's happening. So I just think that as individuals, we need to be more responsible, and we need to care for other people and not just ourselves, because at the end of the day, if it affects one person, it affects everyone. And I think also,
I agree.
There's no need for panic buying. There's no need for you to buy the whole bread on the shelf,
right? Or toilet paper,
right. People don't really have, at home. I think that also as journalists, we have to make sure, we're the voice of the voiceless. We have to make sure, like I said, we have to make sure that we have a purpose. We have to remind the government that we represent the people, so they can't really, say that, we're not essential. We have to show them that we're essential by the work that we do. I think that it's important for us to report on what's happening locally, and not only locally, but internationally as well. So if it is that persons have concerns, they know the different media outlets that there are in Jamaica. They can reach out to them. It's not really as hard as you can make it seem. We're very accessible. Give us a call, send us a video, send us an email. There's several ways that you can reach out to us to voice your concerns. And like I said, if it's not, don't put it out there, because there's so many things that you're doing while doing that. You're putting people at fear.
Right.
And it just doesn't make any sense.
Yes. So thank you so much for all your wealth of knowledge. Oh, I also wanted to ask one last thing. I know that there's a lot of stuff going on in the media, the role of China, because the COVID actually 19 first broke out in Wuhan, China, and Chinese government really, just did not really expose the severity of everything until it was too late, and people already started traveling, and it started spreading into a pandemic. So and now there's a lot of stories, allegedly, because we don't have all the verified proof, but it does make sense, because I know China has been buying a lot of infrastructure. Even in Jamaica, the toll roads were made by the Chinese. Half of my daughter's class and her school were Asians, and even in Africa, they're buying so much land. They have so many Chinatowns and businesses. And, and they have an agenda, to pretty much take over. It's like modern day slavery and colonization. When our leaders, why are you giving contracts to other Chinese companies, for example, that I know firsthand for a fact that come into Nigeria and they bring in all their Chinese workers. They don't hire Nigerians. You know what I'm saying? So you have Nigerian engineers or, workers in contract companies that are even more, knowledgeable, that can do the job, both in Nigeria and in the diaspora. So there's a lot of Nigerians in the diaspora, like you're, a Nigerian Jamaican in Jamaica, that is a very experienced journalist. And if they're giving out a journalist contract, you cannot say that you cannot find a Nigerian that is qualified, both in Nigeria or in the diaspora, to execute and implement that program. Why would you get a Chinese who you would give them the contract, and then the leaders, they would take their cut of the game, and then they would not hire, so there's no sustainability or whatever. They hire their own people, and the money they make from the contract goes back to China. They don't even deposit the money into our banks. Just like the toll road in Jamaica, when people pay, I heard that they don't put the money, allegedly, and I didn't verify, but I'm pretty sure if I do, it will come pretty close. That is the Chinese government that comes, at the end of the month, and they come and they send somebody to move the money to their accounts. They don't deposit it into Jamaica accounts, and to wire it, because of the tracking. So it's just a lot of like stuff, and then people are getting loans. We want relief, I understand, from IMF, but why should we always have to get relief from another country? Why can't we use the resources that we have? There's a lot of Jamaicans in the diaspora that are doing well. Why can't we unite and build our own nation? Why do we have to depend on handouts and that little piece of chicken change that they're going to give you as aid or relief funds? They're going to take it back in thousands and billions, so they'll give you 1 penny and they take $1 billion, because if they're taking your land and your infrastructure, I mean, you pretty much have sold half of your country to them.
Yeah.
So
I think that what it all boils down to is, there's politics and policies of things, right? I get what you're saying, and even like I see it sometimes. So like when there's a construction going on and it's done by, let's say the contract is awarded to a Chinese agency, you find that majority of the persons that are working on building the sites are Chinese workers. And I'm not really sure in terms of like the policies of how it's done, but I think it's a case where, the Chinese people get the contract and they're like, oh, we're just going to use our people because, we have our own people. So I think it's a case where, it's based on policies and, the politics of things. As it relates.
But we don't do that when we have an African company and we go abroad and we have a company, for example, in their country, and we say, oh, we're only going to hire our people. That doesn't happen even here. I noticed that, how could you come here and you say you're only going to hire your people? Because it's very rare that you go into.
I think it actually happens because, like for instance, if there's a job that's gonna be like, if there's a position that's open right now, right? If let's say a Jamaican is in the running for the job, and I as a Nigerian Jamaican is in the running for the job, I would have to be twice as better as the Jamaican to be awarded a contract. So I would have to be exceptionally good to get the job in comparison to the Jamaican. So I think it's a case where each country kind of looks out for its own. But I get what you're saying, like in terms of like contracts, because I mean this is Jamaica and not China. So I think that what they do is find a way of striking a balance when doing this kind of things, because you do have a lot of Jamaicans who also have experience and don't get the job
and don't get the contract and don't get the job.
So
exactly.
The case where they're gonna say, I understand that you're giving us money and you're coming here to help. However, you also have to create opportunities for our own people. Because, I mean, several times, because I remember once upon a time when there were several persons coming here to build all these call centers, and one of the reasons why they were allowed to do these things, build the call centers here, was because although they're bringing money to Jamaica, they're gonna hire Jamaicans to fill up that call center, and the call center agency in Jamaica is one of the agencies
the
that
top
has
ones.
The workers, right, has the most that has a lot of Jamaicans working in it. So it's a case where, just like the call centers, they can say, hey, if you're bringing your business here, you have to hire some of our own people too, because this is Jamaica, not China. You can't just bring
right. So you just made a very key point when it comes to setting up programs and policies and contracts. That yes, I don't mind if you want to have foreign, direct investments, but it has to be in the best interest of my people and nation. So if you're bringing your company here, it's because I did not see a competitor, local company, just like you said, that was not good. Okay, you guys are either cheaper, more reasonable, or, your stuff is more effective. No problem. But out of your employees, the majority of your people, it has to be our people, and not just hiring our people, hiring them in senior positions, not just hiring our people as driver or administrative assistant or at the call center. We need to have some of our people in senior management. I need to see some directors, some managers, you know what I'm saying? people
Definitely.
that got a seat at the table at the high level, because that's when stuff go down. That's when you know the ins and out of what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And then if it's in the best interest of your country, you have your people at that senior management position, so they're gaining the knowledge, the wisdom, the trainings that they need. So then you can you can step down that training. It's called TOT, training of trainers. So once you're at that senior level, you're a leader. You're supposed to now lead others that are under you in the right direction. You set up now a local company that's a protege, and you now take over. You know what I'm saying? And you make sure that it's sustained and that wealth of information stays in your nation. Not that, oh, they come, they set up a company, they make their money, and then they go back to their country. None of our people that were there, yes, they hired our people, but if they're in junior positions and they weren't at senior management, they didn't set them up on trainings to take over, you know what I'm saying, and to know the ins and outs. Right, that wealth of experience, if they just close up shop today, it would not be fair. So there's a lot of like hidden politics and rubbish that go on behind the scenes. So when people say, oh, they hire, okay, so is there any of our people on senior management positions, are they part of the SMT, the senior management team? If they're not, then that's just another way of shading. So, and we need our leaders, our political leaders, to protect, the civilians, or as they say.
I think that's definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely an area that they need to look into, because it is, what you made is a very valid. Where the opportunities are not provided to them, because knowledge is power. So I think it's a case where the government needs to make people know from the get-go that, hey, my people also will benefit from this program. And as it relates to the government going to the IMF for money, definitely there are several Jamaicans in the diaspora who, as like you said, they're well-to-do. Recently, they had a telethon, like where several entertainers came and sang, and some money was donated to help fight this COVID thing. But I think it's a case where the money is not enough, or maybe it's a case where they're trying to plan for the future. So I'm not sure. I think it's a case where more Jamaicans need to look in. More Jamaicans and diaspora need to look in to say, hey, how can we help Jamaica fight this thing without Jamaica going to them and saying, hey, we need your help? Because, Jamaica, at the end of the day, it's still, it's kind of like a small island. So government, I think they're trying to fight this thing. But I think it's a case where they're trying to make sure that the cases are higher in number every day. So it's a case where they're trying to, get enough equipment and whatever they need to fight it. So I think as Jamaicans, it's not up to us to say, hey, let me not wait for the government to come to me. Let me see how best, I can help Jamaica. As people, sometimes we tend to always want to get back stuff in return, but now is not the time to expect stuff in exchange. So I think that if persons can help, they should just use their initiative to help. At the end of the day, nobody wants Jamaica to be in a case where we go to the IMF, because eventually we still have to pay back the money, and
with
still
interest
going to affect the economy. Exactly. And Jamaica recently came out of that IMF debt, and now we have to go back into it. So it's kind of crazy. So I think as Jamaicans, if we can help, we should just use our initiative and help, because I, for one, I'm not up for Jamaica, going back to the IMF. But if that's the only the only option that they have, then I think that maybe that's the case where that's what they're doing.
Yeah, we just gonna hope for the best and prepare. But, once again, it's the power of knowledge and having access to the right information and media. Thank you so much for enlightening us on, all of these things and the call to action. I hope everybody will pay attention, fact check, the information that you get out there. If you have information, you know how to reach out to different journalists and media outlets. Thank goodness for social media and emails and even telephone. You have videos.
I think also these days that people have it confused. Like, you have so many influential people on Instagram and YouTube, but these persons are influential, but they're not journalists. They're not media They did not go to, I don't want to sound, let me try to put this, no, let me put it
in a diplomatic way. Look.
They do not know like the principles behind certain things.
Right.
So that's why sometimes they put out information, and sometimes like I think it's a case where they need to be educated more, because it's really more to it than just putting out information out there, because there's a lot that you can do. Like there's a lot of damage that you can do. Like you can ruin someone's reputation, you can put people in fear, like just make sure that whatever you're putting out there is accurate, fact check stuff, wash your hands, stay safe, be responsible, be accountable, be what's the other word, be what do you call it when no one is watching and you're doing the right thing?
Yeah, be accountable, be transparent, and be your brothers and sisters keeper,
Yeah.
So I mean, it just goes back to the basic. When they even said, as a public health person, when people say, oh, wash your hands, it's not just, I've been teaching people like the basic hand wash. Some people don't even know how to wash their hands properly. Like when they say, 20 seconds, no. If you're not even washing for those 20 seconds, if you're not washing in between your fingers, under your fingernails, over your hand, around your wrist, like if you're not even washing properly, it doesn't even make any sense, and then so is one to know, and it's not just going to protect you from COVID, but there's so many other infectious diseases and illnesses and viruses out there that when you wash your hand properly, when you come home from school or work, you tell your child, go and wash up, take off your outside clothes. You've been at work and school all day. You're not going to, why are you going to go sit on your couch in your bed with all that germs? Take that off.
Sometimes it's really the little things.
Like that. You know what I'm saying? And then wash your hand, wash your face.
Yes.
Basic thing. And you don't need sanitizer. You have water. You have soap. There's even some country they don't even have clean water. With the water they have, they go use Dettol. They go put Dettol inside the dirty water.
Take care of yourself. Don't
God bless
wait for anybody to tell you that.
So everybody has a role to play. But thank you for the strong role of media, because and journalists, I think you guys often get overlooked.
Yeah.
And you guys are one of our great frontline heroes, for the true media journalist that, uncovers the truth. And sometimes, it's okay to make a mistake, because I know like some journalists might say, oh, we covered this story, and then sometimes they might retract it once they dig deeper and they see that, somebody provided them with a lie, or or they didn't see the whole picture. Maybe they got just a piece of the information.
It's also like when I'm writing stories, for instance, if I'm not sure, I said reportedly, allegedly, because I don't want anyone to sue me, because I don't have any money to pay anyone. So
it's better to be safe.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. It is alleged that reportedly, according to
so and so, this is waiting to happen. According to this evidence, allegedly, however, the investigation is still unfolding, so as of this date, and people need to understand that.
Also some media outlets, like when they put out something in a rush, they tag it as developing story.
Right.
So sometimes those are the little things that some persons on social media overlook.
Yes.
That can also be like, that can play a very role in vindicating you should there be like a court case or anything.
Exactly.
Because we have to be very careful with our words these days,
Yes, and even like
persons take their reputation very seriously.
Yes, even me as like a former diplomat, like just knowing behind the scenes, I think a lot of our government officials, they are looked on very hard on, so like the prime minister, like the minister of health, they can say, oh, well, they gave us this guidance last week when they were briefing us, and then the guidance has changed this week, because information changes so much, like as a public health person, and just the clearance and the bureaucracy.
And also their job is not easy.
It is not easy. But even like, as a media person, when you want to write a story, it goes through so much clearance process from the draft to finalize. And by the time you print it, you can now even get an update right after that.
And
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and a lot of fact checking.
Yes.
So like even you find that now, like when we're reporting the COVID-19 cases, we kind of say like as of now, because the numbers increase. Like,
because they change like by the minutes, so you can't. And these test results are not even rapid, like same day. Within minutes. A lot of these results is taking people time to get tested, and then it's taking them time to get results. So
Yeah.
you
We
cannot.
have to be very careful.
So we can only say as of this time, as of this moment, what I know. So, but tomorrow it will change. So how people even interpret data? Do you understand the information? People should have that behind the scenes. That look, information changes so much. So I can only give you guidance based off of what I know today.
It's also important that we don't have selective reading. We read through everything.
Right.
We just read one part and
skim through it.
You have to read everything, understand it, and fully digest it. Don't just do selective reading.
Yes, very good information.
And you overlook stuff.
Yes, because some people some people are mischievous, so they just pick and point, key things out of the story, and they highlight that, and then people will, take it and run with those words. And I'm like, no, you need to read. It's like reading the Bible, You only read Genesis and Psalms and Proverbs. No, there's how many books in the Bible? Like, you have to read from Genesis to Revelation if you want to say. And even then, you can't say you're a full expert. You know what I'm saying? Unless the Holy Spirit has revealed to you, because you can read the same thing and get different interpretations by different people. You know what I'm saying? So, in that case, people really need to be careful in regards to sharing information. Just say, allegedly, this is what I have, and cite the source. So if you say, so I'm not speaking just to be speaking. I'm like, look, I'm speaking on facts. Like, this is how many investments that from foreign investments in our country.
And also sometimes what we do, like, if we're not sure about the story, like, we don't carry it. There's so many things, or like sometimes, when you see kids, you can't show their faces. Like, you have to, like, that's the thing with social media these days, they show everything. Right. There's a lot of ways to doing like this stuff. Like, you have to also, privacy is another thing. You have to make sure that the person's identity is protected still.
Right. For safety reasons, even, right. For safety reasons. And sometimes because, they're minor, you shouldn't be showing children if you don't, have a consent from the parent. And even then, like, you still shouldn't be, it's just so many things. And of course, just like you said, that people do not go to school or they don't have the training. Because some people there's some really good journalists that, we're not privileged to go to school and have a degree, but they have very good training. You know what I'm saying? So train yourself on the policies and get the proper training to back you up. You know what I'm saying? So how to report your stuff.
And also, I think some people also experience plays a part in it.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, journalist Funke Bayesha. So I'm going to leave everybody with the African proverb of the week. It says, until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter. Once again,
I could not agree more.
Until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter. So we need to be to ensure that nobody else is telling our story, and if we want the right stories out there, and you have the facts, then and you research the facts, then you can write the correct story, and you can influence the story. So everybody has power to tell their story, because at least within your region, within your family, within your community, you have access to certain information that people outside of your community or your nation does not have access to.
And let's also remember to make a positive impact with our voices.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm wishing you no wahala this week. Bless up.
No wahala in Jesus' name.
Amen. Bless up.
Stay safe. Wash your hands.
Thank you. You too. Stay safe. Love you.
Love you. Bye.